out of the pocket. 7 seconds. 6 seconds. Murray hits it downfield. It is. Oh, it's caught. It is caught. DeAndre Hopkins.
Kevin Durant way outside. Delivers. Kevin Durant from downtown. It's a 6-point game.
Pleasant good afternoon to everybody. It is your boy Lewis coming back at you once again with another heavy hitter banger with yet another video. Smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, make sure your notifications are turned on, make sure you guys are sharing this on your social media platforms. Truly appreciate it. Again, happy Friday. Hope everybody is having a wonderful day and end to their week going into the weekend. Truly appreciate that. Make sure you guys tune in tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I will be doing preseason basketball. The NBA is back. We got the Sacramento Kings versus the Portland Trail Blazers at 10 p.m. tonight. So if you must, make sure you guys pull up to the live stream. And again, Sacramento Kings fans of the Portland Trail Blazers, man, you guys interested, make sure you guys pull up. I'm going to make sure to call this game in the best way that Lewis Sports Network knows how, baby. You know how it is. All right, on to the video. All right. Whew. Label of this video is a max contract for a max choker. Now, when we talk max, we're talking about in the last, 4 seasons? And I'm talking about Paul George. So Paul George, ladies and gentlemen, for those who don't know, got a 5-year, $226 million extension from the Los Angeles Clippers, where he makes 4 years, $190 million. And his 5th year, I think, is a player option where I think he makes the most money in his deal. He'll earn about $36 million, which will round off to $226 for the 5 years. Here's the way I see it. Salute to Paul George for collecting the bag. The issue is, did the Clippers make a mistake committing to him making all that money? Because you have to understand something. Now that Paul George is making max money, and in a way he does deserve it because, again, he's an all-star level caliber player. You know, Paul George is a good defender. Paul George can score the ball real well. The issue with Paul George, again, is not the regular season, it's been the playoffs, especially in these last couple of years. Now, you ask yourself, is Paul George really worth 5 years of $226 million? If I look into my checkbook, I'm going into my personal bank account and looking to see if I'm going to pay a man $226 million, I'd say, hell no. But you have to salute Paul George because, again, he had the leverage, him and his agent had the leverage, so Paul secured the bag, so it's good for him. But you might say it's bad for the Clippers because what if Paul George if he doesn't win with the Clippers? What is that money really worth? You got to think about that. Then with Kawhi Leonard, it's more so of, is he going to stay there? Because Kawhi, I think, has 2 years left on his deal from what I know. And, you know, what the Clippers have to do, especially Paul George has got a pretty good game. His problem is he's not dedicated. You can see he's not dedicated to his craft. He's worried about partying. He's worried about making excuses. He's made an excuse every single time these last 4 years. And that's why I said that he is a real beta, because you can't tell me that you went with Russell Westbrook to want to stay in Oklahoma City. Remember, you said you wanted to stay in Indiana. But we already know also what happened with that situation because according to him, they didn't get AD. So he says they weren't committed to winning, so he wanted out. You said you wanted to stay in Oklahoma City. This is where you want to be. So you signed that deal with Russ. You have a career year, but then you end up wanting to head out of OKC, and you end up getting traded to the Clippers. The Clippers gave up all those draft picks to get you and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and you put one of the worst performances in the playoffs. And here's the thing with Paul George. In the last couple of years, this is why Paul George doesn't get any excuses. Paul George did not perform well in a crowd, and Paul George did not perform well without a crowd. So it basically tells you no matter where Paul George plays at, you know you're going to get the same thing from him in these last couple of years, and that's poor play in big games. That's number one. Number two, I think that he's still going through a mental hurdle. And again, I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying, from what I'm looking at Paul George, he settles way too much for jumpers and rarely takes that ball inside. He has got a good enough handle to put the ball in the basket, put the ball on the floor. He says it was put in more pin downs when you were still doing a high number of pick and rolls with the Clippers this season. despite the fact that you miss games. Another thing, him and Kawhi Leonard cannot miss a lot of games. So one thing, they have to be healthy. Another thing is they have to be on the court with their team to make sure that they work on their chemistry, because chemistry was a big problem last year. Listen, I get on Kawhi because Kawhi did blow that 3-1 lead, especially with the superstar treatment he was getting, but at least he came out and said that the Clippers have to be better. And most importantly, Kawhi's going to have to be a little bit more vocal. Now, will I think he ever will do that? I don't know. I think Kawhi, to me, plays best when he has somebody next to him that is more vocal than he is. You just look at Kyle Lowry. And I just mean in terms of leadership, in terms of vocal. Kawhi Leonard just gets to play his game, which is in a way why it kind of reminds me of KD. He just gets to play his game. That's it. But do I think Paul George deserves that money? No. But again, it's a benefit for Paul George, and I understand why he got that money. I just don't think it's in the best interest for the Clippers. And if they don't win, the Clippers are going to kick themselves in the shin as to why they gave Paul George all that money. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I just don't think that somebody deserves all that money, especially considering what he's done in the last couple of years. When you need him to play well in a big game, he just finds a way to mess up. Again, I'm going to say this again. You cannot get outplayed by Joe Ingles. Okay? You was on a team with Russell Westbrook and Carmelo Anthony. And even if you guys were not as efficient, you guys were more talented and had more all-stars than that Utah team. Donovan Mitchell was just a rookie, and you lost to him in the playoffs. Paul George went, 2 for 18 in that game 6? Right. And we saw what happened last year, 4 for 16 in the bubble. So what I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, is it doesn't matter where Paul George plays. Paul George is giving you the same performance. It ain't changing. He needs to stay away from the dots. He needs to stop sliding into girls' DMs. He needs to stop worrying about partying and focus on basketball, dedicate himself to his craft, see what the mistakes he made last year. Him and Kawhi Leonard need to be on the court together, and they need to set an example to that locker room. I'm just interested to see what kind of system Ty Lue's going to play, because he has to prove that he was not led by LeBron James. Believe it or not, he was led by LeBron James. So we have to find out if Ty Lue can actually coach talent. So we're going to see what happens this year. We're going to see what happens. But again, ladies and gentlemen, Paul George got that contract. So if Paul George shows that he's not dedicated, that just shows me that he's too weak-minded. And again, you need to stop making excuses, bro, because you got an excuse for everything. Everything. Paul George, if you just own up to it, people will clown you, but they won't clown you at the level they will. There's a reason why the internet is undefeated. When you make excuses, when you say you're going to do something and then you don't do it, guess what? You're the talk of the internet. So you got to live with that. But the fact that you're making excuse after an excuse, you think this past season was bad? Don't show up this season and you'll see what's going to happen. I'm just telling you. Don't say you weren't warned, Paul George. So ladies and gentlemen, this is your boy Lewis with another one. Let me know what you guys think on the comments on Paul George's 5-year, $226 million extension. Oh, and by the way, let me just finish by saying this real quick. Ty Lue is going to have to figure out what kind of system they're going to run. The Clippers are going to have to figure out what kind of identity that they need to have as a team, because they don't really have one. They need a playmaker and they lack leadership. And also, they're going to have to find a way to incorporate Zubac more into the offense, because the Clippers are a perimeter-oriented team that get their points in the paint by drives. So they're going to have to get some post play. And I would say Paul George can put himself in the post a little bit more. Same with Kawhi Leonard, but even give Zubac some post-ups because he's your big. So we'll see what happens, and I'm wondering how this season's going to turn out. But anyway, bless up, live, laugh, love. Thank you guys for